Okay, hello and welcome to another video. Today we have another Nintendo Switch modding video because unfortunately the Nintendo Switch OLED that I modded in one of the previous videos has stopped working. On this console I did a PicoFly mod chip, and when I turn it on now it seems to flash yellow instead of green to indicate a successful boot. Now I've looked on the PicoFly GitHub and this seems to be an issue related to the .0 adapter, the one that goes under the eMMC. I've heard that these Chinese flex cables can be very bad quality, so what I've done is I've got a brand new Helder's .0 flex cable. From what I've heard, they're way better quality and hopefully this is not going to happen again with the new .0. I've already taken the back off this console as you can see, but unfortunately I'm going to have to take the motherboard out again and everything, so I guess we'll head onto the camera and do that today. Okay, so what we're going to start with is simply removing the motherboard. Now this involves a lot of screws and I'm not really going to go over too much of this today as I don't think it's that necessary. If you want to see a more detailed disassembly, then I'm going to leave some iFixit guides below, and also the original OLED mod chip video I did, as that covers it in a lot more detail. We need to remove the antennas as well as the game cart and micro SD slot. We also need to remove the heatsink. We also need to remove the ribbon cables, being particularly careful with the screen ribbon cable, which can get damaged very easily. Then we simply pry out the motherboard, and now we can take it under the microscope and work on the .0 flex cable. So this is the old .0 adapter under the microscope which has stopped working. So what we need to do is remove this one and add the new Helder's .0. To remove it, we're first going to add some flux to the points. First of all, we're going to remove the wire, which is the purple wire being connected to the mod chip. To remove the old flex cable, we want to heat up the anchor pads that we previously soldered when installing the cable. We're going to heat these up, and then what I'm going to do is get some tweezers and try and push it underneath the flex cable and lift up the anchor points. Now, as we're not reseating this cable, we are replacing it, I'm not too worried about damaging it. Here I've lifted up one of the anchor points, and now I'm going in for the second one with the tweezers. Once they're both removed, that is the .0 adapter removed, and we can simply just pull it out from underneath the eMMC. Before installing the new .0, we of course want to clean the board free from all the flux using some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. Once the board is all nice and cleaned up, we can then install the new flex cable. This is the one I'm going to be using today, and it is the Helder's Flex .0 adapter. As you can see from this video, low quality PCBs can be a really big problem in electronics projects. And that is why today I've partnered up with PCBWay to make sure that your PCBs are the best quality they can be. Before we begin this project, I'd like to give a shout out to this video sponsor, PCBWay. For those who don't know, PCB stands for Printed Circuit Board. PCBs are the neatest and cleanest way to present your electronic projects, and without them, most of my projects wouldn't be possible. I'm constantly using PCBs in my projects, for example, a mod chip like this one. PCBWay's services allow you to get your own PCBs printed at affordable prices using their easy to use website. They also offer board assembly, 3D printing and CNC work. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, PCBWay is the way for you. Now back to the video. I've heard really good things about these, so I hope these aren't going to cause any more issues like these cheap Chinese ones have been for me. Now we can get the new flex cable and put it underneath the eMMC. It's really important that these are lined up correctly. You can see with mine here it wasn't aligned correctly, so I had to pull it out and put it back in. The good thing with these ones is they have a nice line to show you where the corner of the eMMC should be. Before we solder anything down, we want to make sure that we are getting the correct reading on this .0 adapter. I'm not too sure exactly what the values are, but from my understanding it's something between 0.4 and 0.8 volts. I'll leave some better information on this in the description below. Once we've confirmed that these are the correct values, we want to add some flux to the anchor points and solder them down. How I like to do this is adding some solder to the points and bridging it onto those ground pads on the motherboard. Then I get some tweezers and apply some pressure onto the flex cable so it's properly connecting to that ball under the eMMC, and then I go ahead and reflow the point to make sure that that pressure is being held in place. There is also another anchor point to the right side of the flex cable. This solders to a little capacitor and just adds a bit more security to the flex cable. There is also another anchor point on the left side of the flex cable, but I was advised not to solder this in as it's really tight and is just more of a risk. Lastly, we need to resolder the wire that connects the DAT0 to the mod chip, so we need to pre-tin that point on the flex cable and then connect our purple wire again. Once again, making sure to use some flux on this point. Now that our brand new Helder's DAT0 is installed, we want to clean it up with some isopropyl alcohol, simply spray some on the board and then use a Q-tip to wipe away all of the excess flux. Once that's all connected and cleaned, we can then reassemble the console, screw everything back together, connect all of the ribbon cables, and see if the console boots. Okay, and that is the full console reassembled with the Helder DAT0, so this console should definitely not have any issues. As you can see now, I'm booted into my custom firmware. If you have any errors with your Switch, I'm going to leave a link in the description below of the PicoFly error codes so you can diagnose your console. Now, this is something you should be cautious about with mod chips. Mod chips are not perfect and sometimes they break, as mine did earlier. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like down below and also leave me a comment and let me know what other videos you'd like to see. I now have a Patreon, so for just $1 a month, you can subscribe to the Patreon and get access to behind the scenes content. As always, that's it for today and I'll see you in the next one.